Aloha. Aloha kako. Talofa. I need my glasses. My name is Robert Bley-Vroman. I've agreed to serve as Interim Chancellor of the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Recently, I've started reading the novels of Earl Derr Biggers, a name that means something to some of you, especially those novels featuring Honolulu Detective Sergeant Charlie Chan. Here's something that Sergeant Chan says. It's about duty, and it certainly applies to my personal experience in the past few weeks. Chan says, "So, waiting the end, I do my duty as it rises. I tread the path that opens." That's what's happened to me over the past couple weeks. Although I've been at Manoa for 27 years, and many of you know me, I'd like to begin with a few words of personal introduction. I was born at the end of the Second World War, part of the leading edge of the baby boom. I grew up in California, in Redlands, then an agricultural community, largely the navel orange center of the world. It's not the same now. Agriculture and education were what my town was about. We also had the University of Redlands, a liberal arts college that actually quite a few Hawaii people go to these days. My father was a teacher and a school executive, perhaps significantly, I don't know. My mother, MA in history, was happy to say she was a housewife. I have two sisters, twins, Mary and Margaret, 2 years younger than I am. My earliest recollection of Hawaii was when I was 10 years old. When I was 10 years old, we came to Hawaii on vacation, our family and my grandmother. We came on the Lurleen, just to show how long ago this was. The entire Hawaii trip, sea voyage and stay in the islands, lasted 3 weeks. You could hardly do it any shorter than that in those days. We stayed first at the Moana, then at the then new Breakers Hotel, if any of you know that, down on Beach Walk. My mother thought the Moana was too hectic. My grandmother stayed in a bungalow at the Halekulani. She complained about the mosquitoes. I have very clear recollections of those days. My first plane ride of my life was from Honolulu to Hilo in 1957 when I was 12. We came back again on a 3-week trip. Amazingly, my mother kept up our friendship with the people we met in Hawaii until her death a year ago at age 99. And I still stop by occasionally the Breakers Hotel to visit with Ethel Nada, who is still the managing director of the Breakers, half a century later. I graduated in Redlands High School, then Pomona College, where I majored in German. I have an MA in linguistics, an MA in Germanics, and a PhD in linguistics from the University of Washington. I did not go to the game. Although I have to say it was perfect. I mean, it was great. It's true we lost by a point, but we really did outplay them. It's a very auspicious opening to the season. Before coming to Hawaii, I taught at the University of Texas for 2 years, at the University of Michigan. I taught at the University of Texas for quite a while, and intermittent in the middle of that, 2 years at Michigan, Ann Arbor. My special interest is in linguistic theoretical approaches to language acquisition. I'm probably best known for a position on a child-adult differences in language learning that's come to be known as the fundamental difference hypothesis. I came to UH in 1987 chiefly attracted by the quality of its world-class research in second language acquisition, and especially by the exciting and collegial working environment in the department. This has affected my thinking about faculty recruitment and retention. A collegial workplace and the opportunity to be on the forefront of the expansion of knowledge can attract and keep, are really necessary to attract and keep top talent at the university, even in the absence of vast riches, which we cannot readily compete on. At UH, I've served as department chair, grad chair, director of the Second Language Teaching and Curriculum Center, founder and director of the National Foreign Language Resource Center. I've been active in shared governance as chair of administration and budget for the Senate, and as Senate chair with Kathy Cutshaw, then as SOIST, I chaired the Manoa Budget Advisory Group. Since spring of 2010, until the day before yesterday, I served as Dean of the College of Languages, Linguistics, and Literature, one of the 4 colleges of arts and sciences and one of the larger units at the university. In 2006 and in 2007, I chaired the Search Advisory Committee for what we called then the Manoa-driven faculty-led search for a new Manoa Chancellor. As part of that process, I worked with David McLean, the Regents, and the Senate to create a job description for the Chancellor. We described a very demanding job. I wish it had been otherwise. I am now, how do you say? I'm now hoist on my own petard. I'm unabashedly an academic, and I use long words and complex sentences. Once then Vice President Linda Johnson said to me after I gave the ringing cry for building a Berkeley of the Pacific, she said to me, "Robert, you're so faculty." And that's really the nicest thing that she could have said. Incidentally, I now think that the concept of building a Berkeley of the Pacific is really not right. We can do way better than that. Enough about me. This address this morning is about responsibility. You can use Kuleana, perhaps, and get it about right. There will be no simple slogans, no sound bites. I'm very bad at those. Nothing new or radical is being proposed. There's nothing visionary or aspirational here. The points to be made are statements of fact, what our responsibilities are, not what they should be. If you find the points that I will make boringly self-evident, that's good, because they should be boringly self-evident. If they seem radical and visionary and you've never thought about them before, that's a problem. This is a time in the history of Manoa where we need to concentrate on basics and on fundamental values and duties. Talk is structured as follows. You can see the academic at work here. First, I'll outline some major areas of core responsibility for the university as I see it. I'll give 6. And then there's one concept, Hawaiian place of learning, that cuts across or permeates all of the others. After a discussion of these responsibilities, I'll move briefly to talk about fiscal responsibility and about the present budget situation, especially with respect to carry forward balances, and the actions that need to be taken immediately, first to help the university community understand where we are and how we got there, and second, what we need to do to get us, as Vice Chancellor Dassenbrock puts it, flying level into the future. Again, there will be no dramatic initiatives announced. Stability and rationality should be our goal at this time. Finally, if there's time at the end, I'll touch very briefly on system Manoa administrative questions. Knowing what I do about myself and my tendency to run on, it's possible that there won't be time or much time for questions today. However, next month, we will hold a campus-wide conversation that will have plenty of time for open discussion. So let me talk about what I think of as our 6 core responsibilities. Our first core responsibility is for high-quality undergraduate liberal education. The university must offer an education that, and here I'm borrowing concepts from the American Council of Colleges and Universities, includes knowledge of human cultures and of the physical and natural world through the studies of science and mathematics, social sciences, humanities, histories, languages, and the arts. It includes intellectual and practical skills, inquiry and analysis, critical and creative thinking. It includes written and oral communication, quantitative literacy, information literacy, teamwork, problem solving, and it includes personal and social responsibility, civic knowledge and engagement, intercultural knowledge and competence, ethical reasoning and action, and foundation skills for lifelong learning. It includes integrative and applied learning, synthesis and advanced accomplishment across general and specialized studies demonstrated through the application of knowledge, skills, and responsibilities to new settings and complex problems. This is what it means to have a high-quality undergraduate liberal education. It's education for a citizen of a free society. That's why the word liberal in it. It is realized concretely in our general education system, in systems of institutional learning outcomes and assessment of high-impact educational practices that must pervade and underpin liberal education. The children of Hawaii should be able to get as good an undergraduate education as anywhere in the world. That's our responsibility in the first instance. On the practical level, fulfilling this responsibility necessitates a system of simple and comprehensible general education and graduation requirements, quality freshman experience, good student services, reasonable class sizes, favorable student-to-faculty ratios, includes academic plans and class offerings that permit students to get the courses they need when they need them. Though we have a way to go, we have made very significant strides in these areas in the past couple of years. Dean Peter Arnada, who's here, describes conversations that he's had with parents of potential UH students in California. They say, wow, you can get into Manoa and you can get the courses you need and you can graduate in 4 years. That is possible here. We have a ways to go, but that is possible. So the first responsibility is for high quality undergraduate education. The second is to offer a wide range of high quality undergraduate specializations of majors. Taking advantage of our unique situation, these will include some specializations that are not readily found elsewhere. To take an example from my own college, my own former college, at UH you can major in Philippine languages and literature, Ilocano and Filipino, Tagalog. There is no other place outside the Philippines where you can do this, or you can major in Hawaiian studies, nowhere else. Our undergraduate French specialization organizes study in Tahiti, where else? We have an undergraduate Korean language flagship center where you can complete a particularly demanding major. It's the only one in the United States. These examples are all from my own college, but you can multiply them of majors or specializations where we go because of our particular situation beyond even the range of typical majors that are available at your run-of-the-mill university. We are not one of those. However, and this is absolutely the crucial point, although we do offer some areas of specialization that are unique to our situation, we are not in any way restricted to these. We have a responsibility, a positive responsibility, to offer the broad range of undergraduate specializations you would expect to find at a leading state university. You can here major in philosophy, or psychology, or business, or engineering, or classics, or Russian, or physics, or history. In fact, because we are the only major university within thousands of miles, we have a special duty to the people of Hawaii to offer a wide range of high-quality specializations, including those in which we do not claim to have a unique niche, or should I say niche? Do you want to vote? I'll say niche. Maybe now is the time to introduce a neologism that some of us came up with over beer a couple of days ago. It's the concept of nichiness. Undergraduate liberal education is not niche or less niche. High-quality undergraduate education, we have some areas of responsibility that are special to us, but in general, we are not restricted to a niche in those areas. In fact, we have a responsibility for a full range, a broad range of specializations. Things get a little different with respect to nichiness when we move to the third area of responsibility, which is to provide specialized graduate education in particular areas of strong demand or unique strength, education up to the doctorate or other terminal degrees. Here, the responsibility does become a bit more niche. Again, to use examples from my own college, if you want to do doctoral work in second language studies or documentation and conservation of endangered languages, then UH is the place for you. We are renowned in these areas, they are our niche, and we have a positive responsibility to maintain our international leadership in those areas. If, in contrast, you want to do doctoral work in ancient Greek poetics, are there fans of ancient Greek poetics here that I have to, there's one. And I will tell Dan that if you want to do doctoral work in ancient Greek poetics, you will have to go somewhere else. But UH's strong undergraduate offerings in classical language, history, and culture will give you a very strong foundation. So here's the basic idea, is that in this area, we have to be kind of selective. On the other hand, in general undergraduate education, in liberal education, and the range of majors, we have a responsibility to offer a broad range. The fourth kuleana is our responsibility to the advancement of human knowledge and understanding. This is the area of research, broadly construed. I do not mean only externally funded research, although that's sometimes the most visible, especially since it has very important economic benefits to the state of Hawaii. But much important research is funded or self-funded or unfunded, with students and faculty members working to increase understanding without lots of dollars. Manoa is a research university, and we need to embrace that. We are a so-called Carnegie One institution, a university with very high research activity, RU/VH, in the current lingo of the field. As Hawaii's only research university, we have a very important responsibility to maintain and strengthen our research enterprise, to encourage students and faculty in their work, and especially to integrate research and instruction. We need to provide the support and collegial working conditions necessary for this enterprise. To return to the concept of nichiness, the research kuleana is also rather high on the restrictive nichiness scale. UH has a particular responsibility for some areas that are given to us by what we are and where we are. We have a special responsibility for advancing, say, Hawaiian history, our understanding of Polynesian religions, of the oceans, of native Hawaiian health, of the geology of volcanism, of sustainable tropical agriculture, of post-colonial literature, ethnomusicology, indigenous education, and the like. I see research as relatively restrictively niche, So we have a responsibility to fisheries which we do not have to reindeer husbandry, for example. Our library has a greater responsibility to maintain a comprehensive Hawaiian, Asian, and Pacific collections than to support a collection on Baroque music, though I love Baroque music. And likewise, in my own field, we have a greater responsibility to oceanic linguistics than to African linguistics. The fifth and sixth areas of responsibility are about service. About service to our Hawaii community, that's number 5, and service globally, that's number 6. So, service to Hawaii. We exist not as an ivory tower of scholarship, we exist in a society and are supported by and support the people of our islands. We must be out in the community, listening to the community, working with the community, helping to solve problems. We don't just advance understanding in the abstract of tropical agriculture. We have to be out there helping farmers. In my own college, we don't just do research in heritage language acquisition. We are in the community working to develop a multilingual workforce for Hawaii. We don't just investigate environmental law abstractly. We put that legal research to work to build the grounding for an environmentally sustainable economy for Hawaii. We don't just administer academic programs about Native Hawaiian health, we actually work in the community to improve the health of real people. This is engaged scholarship. Sixth, and finally, is our responsibility to the world. By this, I mean something different from, say, our leadership role in certain special research areas. It's more than that. And actually, here I'm not going to say much because it's a little, how do I put it? This is the question of our world responsibility is an interesting one and something that requires us to think a lot about. It's related really to what's written on the gates of the university. It's related to Maluna ai, Onalahui apau, Keolo ke kanaka. So we need to figure out what that means. For me, you may have your own ideas. The metaphor of the city on the hill may be correct. We need to be an example of what a university of our kind can be. That's what our responsibility is, I think, to the world. Now look back at this list of 6. Among these, different parts of the university have different relative roles to play. They are differentially sensitive to our unique position on the planet. We're sort of like a symphony in that respect. Or, had to say this, for the Bible champions in the audience, recall 1 Corinthians 12. Again, to take an example from my old college, German is particularly strong in instruction for language requirement students, Kuleana number 1, and for us it has a very strong undergraduate major. However, we do not have a doctoral program in this field, nor would this be required as a matter of the university's educational responsibility. Other departments, in contrast, concentrate on graduate education and research. So different parts of the university have different roles to play in that matrix of areas of responsibility. Importantly, the areas of responsibility should not be viewed as exclusive alternatives. That is to say, it's not a choice of one responsibility or another responsibility. And I must say there is a tendency at this university and others to frame the questions as if it were a choice between can we have a strong research program, or instead, can we offer the courses we need to undergraduates? That's definitely the wrong way to think of it, and any attempt to frame those issues in those ways this is a fabric, and when you start weakening some of the threads of the fabric, the whole thing falls apart. Everything must be strong, and everything must strengthen everything else. We must reject any discourse that pits one area of responsibility against the other. So let me sort of summarize where I am so far. We got 6 areas of responsibility. Everything has to be strong. Different parts of the university have different particular responsibilities within that matrix. But now you may say, you've left something out. Some may ask, why isn't Hawaiian Place of Learning there? After all, don't we always see that tacked on the end of every list? I've postponed this not because I think it's of secondary importance, but because everything up to now is necessary in order to frame that question. Too often we do treat Hawaiian Place of Learning as if it were just another item on a list of things we need to do. Sometimes even as an afterthought, I regret to say. So someone will come up and say, I have 3 main priorities, or 4. They are this and this and this. And then they'll say, right, I mean 4, not 3. And the 4th one is, I forgot, right? Hawaiian Place of Learning. That's not the way it works. For me personally, the breakthrough in my own thinking about this came from realizing that Hawaiian Place of Learning is not an item on a list. In terms of the areas of responsibility I've given, Hawaiian Place of Learning is not number 7 or number 1. Instead, and here I'm not really sure the proper metaphor, Hawaiian Place of Learning is the matrix in which the responsibilities are stated. Or perhaps better, the responsibilities themselves are a matrix. And Hawaiian Place of Learning must suffuse all the cells of that matrix. If we move from talking about the list item to talking about the context in which this numeration of responsibilities subsists, then we can make some real progress in asking what Hawaiian Place of Learning might mean in concrete, realizable terms. I won't go through this in detail, but you can see that the idea is, you think about responsibility 1. High quality undergraduate liberal education. Hawaiian Place of Learning needs to be suffused into that. There are some very obvious things, like of course you need Hawaiian 107, you need to make sure that Hawaiian language is available as part of the language requirement, but it's more than that. It has to do with the whole undergraduate experience and the position of Hawaiian Place of Learning in that. It can affect freshman orientation. It can affect the way we welcome Native Hawaiian students and encourage them. As Lili Kala Kame'elehiva put it to me once, I think we were drinking beer in, Manoa Garden or something. What is a Hawaiian Place of Learning without Hawaiians? Clearly, our literature courses must include some of those with focus on themes relevant to Hawaii. Makeup of faculty, staff, and executive leadership is also important. But we can explore these in greater detail, and I hope we think about it. But again, the idea is not that there is this and this and this and this and this and then Hawaiian Place of Learning. There is this and this and this and this and this is the right way to think about it. You could do that talk about research and what it would mean in that case. You can talk about global responsibility and what it would mean in that case, and so on. You can do the same for each of the 6 areas of responsibilities I've listed, or whatever your own favorite list is. As the math teachers say, this is left as an exercise. So, to summarize to this point, what are our main responsibilities? First, to provide high-quality undergraduate education. Second, to offer a broad range of high-quality undergraduate specializations. Third, to offer advanced graduate education leading to doctorates in selected fields of excellence. Fourth, to maintain a research university with very high research activity, and again, especially in selected fields. Fifth, to serve the community of Hawaii. And sixth, to serve the world as a beacon. And all of these are suffused with the concept of Hawaiian place of learning. Let me emphasize once again, I'm not talking about vision or strategic initiatives or the chancellor's priorities or anything like that. I'm talking about plain old-fashioned doing your job. We need to do these things, these 6 things and maybe others, not because of some grand vision or, what we'd like. We have to do them because they're the things we need to do. They're what makes us the university we are. I'd like to transition now to a second topic, down to money a little bit. And it's also related to the general value of responsibility. A university must be responsible in its finances. As you know, or perhaps you don't know, but you kind of have an inkling, over the last few years, there's been a large drop in our carry-forward balance. If you want to think of it in terms of your bank account, it's as if there used to be a lot of money in there and now there's not very much, or much less. That can be a problem or not. It depends on what's causing that and what the future holds, and the same is true with us. So, I don't write these figures down. They evolve day by day. But for fiscal 2011, that's the end of the 2010-11 fiscal year. Fiscal years took me a long time to learn this. Fiscal years are named by their ends. So 2011 is the 2010-11 year. That year, fiscal 2011, our balance was over $110 million, more than my bank balance. For fiscal 2012, it was about $75 million. That's less. Fiscal 2013, it was about $60 million, even less. At the end of the past fiscal year, it was about $30 million. Now, $30 million itself is not all that alarming. It's actually not that bad carry-forward balance. However, the trend is a little disturbing. And it is that trend that has caused us in the administration to feel that it's really time to put the brakes on a little and figure out where we are and where we're going. If we were to stay at about that level, that would be fine. If we were to continue to fall at the rate of tens of millions of dollars a year, that would be very unacceptable. The first step that we need, and I'm not going to go into this in great deal today, is to understand the causes of that drop. I've asked Vice Chancellor for Administration, Finance, and Operations, Kathy Cutshaw, to prepare a presentation of the present situation and how we got there, and in a form that can be understood by our university community. Together, we're working on what we call a roadshow, so that we can set out the situation in transparent form to groups on campus. Today is not the day for that roadshow, but the roadshow will be ready. We plan a little preview of it on Friday, and I hope that it will be available so that we'll have a clearer presentation of the situation. I hope we can get together a month from now in a more open conversation format. Let me outline some of the parts of the picture here, and again, it's not productive to write things down and try to add things up, but let me kind of give you a feel for some of the components here. I'm not an expert on these things yet, can only give a rough idea and really don't trust myself to answer questions. But for example, In fiscal 2012, we invested $16.5 million for Edmondson and $20 million for IT telecom investments for a total of about $37 million. Notice that accounts for quite a bit of that fall. And these are investments, they're not continuing expenses. So you shouldn't be completely free of worry, but maybe you're a little less panicked, as I am, because some of these expenses really are investments and they really are one-time expenses. In fiscal 12, the legislature didn't fund the restoration of UPA salaries as they did with other unions. Importantly, Manoa's electricity bill has increased by $13 million over the last 6 years. That's a lot of money, largely as a consequence of rate increases. It's not that we're wasting more and more electricity. It's just that it's getting more and more expensive. We know this from our own lives, and we know it here too. For fiscal 12 to 14, the Chancellor committed about $15 million in additional expenditures, including needed recurring investments in schools and colleges, the library, and facilities. GA salary increases, unquestionably necessary to preserve the strength of our key graduate programs and of our research enterprise, and to provide teachers for essential gateway and required courses, also added a couple million or more, depending on how you count what happens for those colleges who also tried to maintain a differential between MAs and PhDs. Now I'm getting too much in the weeds. Let me stop that. A very important component of the decline is the permanent G-Fund cut of $7 million that Manoa has had to absorb. In addition, actual tuition revenues collected were several million lower than projected during the 2012 to 14 fiscal years. To some extent, we've faced a kind of perfect storm of pressures over the past few years. Collective bargaining agreement effects, ongoing utility rate increases, non-recurring infrastructure investments, necessary base increases to colleges, a large G-Fund cut, lower tuition revenue than expected. Our task really is now to assess the situation and to make sure we can, quote, fly level into the future. Again, this is a matter of responsibility. Let me give you a metaphor that maybe doesn't help anyone but me. Some parts of the university have great balances, some have lower balances, some are going up, some are going down. I imagine a big flock of birds. Maybe this is a silly metaphor. So here, all different altitudes, maybe a school of fish is better. It's not a flock like one of these, it's a big group. Some of them go up, some of them go down, but what we need to do is make sure that the whole flock doesn't slowly start descending to Earth before they make it to wherever it is they're going. Maybe that's not a helpful metaphor. Works for me. So that's what we need to do. What we need to do is concentrate on each of those little birds. I can see this metaphor is going nowhere. Let me stop that one. But what we're trying to do is to make sure that I can't resist the metaphor, that cloud of birds as a whole keeps flying level. You know, it's okay for it to descend like this for a while, as it has over the last couple of years, but it needs to stabilize and maintain this kind of level progression into the future, and that's what we need to work about. To this end, to try to figure out where we are and to make sure that we fly level into the future, there are some things that we will do immediately. We will immediately reinstate central budget monitoring and control processes. Let me try to be specific here, because this has fallen into disuse over the past few years, and we were relying too much on historical allocations. Deans need to present annual budgets for review with possible revision upward or downward to make sure that each college is flying level. And the goal is to cause the flock to fly level in the aggregate. So we will reinstitute a system of annual budget reviews of college budgets. We should be doing this anyway. It's our responsibility. A regular review system should obviate the need for blunt instrument measures, such as the recent complete hiring freeze with an exception mechanism. I believe that mechanism was necessary and was essential at the time, but what we need to do is transition from blunt instrument hiring freezes to regular budget reviews. Special scrutiny will still be required this year, especially with respect to long-term commitments, specifically the hiring of tenure-track faculty and long-term staff with indefinite commitments into the future. But the immediate mechanism no longer need be a freeze on all hiring down to student help and a justification for every specific case. In addition, I will, over the next few days, appoint and charge a budget process committee that will propose an improved and more rational allocation system for base budgets. Summarizing the measures to be taken now, after some water. We will have a transparent account of the current situation in carry-forward balances, how we got there, to be presented to the university community, and we're working on this roadshow now. B, we will have an annual budget review process for all college-level units with full fiscal oversight. C, we will institute a provisional lift of the present hiring freeze, except for new long-term commitments and personnel spending increases over the previous year. D, a committee will present a proposal for a new allocation methodology. So that's what we're going to do right now. Again, our goal, and I believe we can achieve this, is to fly level into the future. Let me emphasize one large point. The problems we face are not the result of massive, frivolous, or irresponsible or foolish spending. We do need to pay the electricity bills. We do need to keep the infrastructure from collapse. We do need to offer enough seats in required and gateway courses. We do need to offer reasonable advisor-advisee ratios. We do need to cover the costs of collective bargaining agreements. We do need to pay competitive stipends to graduate assistants. We do need to maintain a favorable student-faculty ratio. We do need to renovate buildings. Certainly there are ways to tighten our belts, and we will need to work very hard to do that. And we are engaged in that serious effort now. The hiring freeze was, though unpleasant and awkward for many of us, a very useful tool in forcing us to think about ways that we can be more efficient. But we can tighten our belts, but there is also a responsibility of all of us in Hawaii to support the higher education system and the university specifically as a social good. For example, rather than put the burden for increased electricity rates on students through tuition increases, the society as a whole, the legislature and others, should consider funding those increases some other way and spare student tuition in those cases. That's all I'm going to say now about the financial situation. I had intended to say a little about Manoa system relations, but we're running short of time. I'll say a little because that's an important challenge that faces us now. Hawaii, and so I'm not going to propose solutions here. I'm simply going to talk about the issues and how we might frame them. Hawaii has a state system of higher education. In fact, it's a very good system, one that we can be proud of. It consists of a well-established, primarily four-year college in Hilo, also with selected graduate and professional programs. There's a fine system of community colleges established already in the 1960s under the visionary leadership of President Hamilton. These colleges are much more than junior colleges or technical schools. They really are examples of the way that part of the education system ought to work. We have a very fine community college system. In addition to being strong educational institutions in their own right, they feed the four-year colleges and the research university. And there is also a four-year campus at West Oahu, a young one. Within this system of institutions, the University of Hawaii is the single full-scale doctoral level institution in the state. Manoa is a major research university with an important international reputation. Hawaii's state higher education system is rather unusual among state systems in that it combines four-year colleges, a system of community colleges, and one major research university into a single higher ed system under a single administration. There are clear advantages to this system, but also challenges. So far what I've talked about is the nature of the higher education system. Let me talk a little bit about language. As a linguist, I'm not a radical Whorfian, if anybody here knows what that means, that I don't believe that the way we talk absolutely constrains the way we think. But it's important when we have conversations like this to try to find a relatively neutral way of talking about them. In particular, I have not called the Hawaii state system of higher education the University of Hawaii. I don't mean that to be tendentious or, now see, there I am using words like that. It's just that it confuses things when we use a single word like university to talk about UH Manoa and also the state system of higher education. So in this discourse, and again, not presupposing any outcome, I'm going to talk about the higher ed system and Manoa. In fact, I would prefer to speak of the system head to refer to the person in charge of the higher ed system, and I'll say head of Manoa to refer to the leader of the research university. You'll notice that I'm avoiding the terms president and chancellor, not because they are inappropriate terms, but because as soon as we say them, we get confused about the issues that we're talking about. So to address the so-called system Manoa question, one must, as a requisite first step, identify the necessary functions needed at Manoa and the functions needed to administer the higher education system as a whole. That's our first step, is to figure out how that's going to work. Because of Hawaii's uniqueness, there are no obvious external models for the functions needed at various levels. This is particularly true of the system level because our system is very unique. I've attributed to David McLean the statement that the system office and its leadership needs to, quote, chart the course of higher education for the state. Actually, I'm not sure that David McLean said that. He's not here, is he? It may have been just an offhand comment that I picked up, but that's one way to think about it. We think about charting the course of higher education for the state. Then you can ask yourself what sort of functions are necessary in order to maintain that. But it is a reasonable way of thinking about it. And you can also ask what qualities and skills would the head of such a system need. As always, it's about clarity of kuleana. It's about deciding what needs to be done. Only with this level of analysis will it be possible to ask questions like, would it be effective for a single office both to lead the Hawaii higher ed system and also administer the research university? The answer to that might be yes. It might not. You can ask questions like this: what system-level shared services could be housed at Manoa while serving the whole system, or vice versa? What functions could be housed at the system level and serve the individual common? It's just really a question of where do you put shared services? There's that question. There's the question that everybody likes to talk about, but have not really thought through. You can ask, could the head of Manoa serve as the head of the higher education system? Or conversely, and actually equivalently, could the head of the higher education system serve as the leader of Manoa? The original Hamilton-era model, the president, it was called at the time, of the research university was the head of the system. So if you want to put it in that historical terminology, there was a university president, a system developed, and the president of the university became the head of the system. It's a complicated question. I guess maybe I'll leave it at that. But what the question requires is serious analysis. David Lassner and I have jointly committed that we will jointly own this question. It's been 10 years since the current system, which I think everyone agrees is imperfect, in some way was developed. So it really is time to take stock. So over the next months and year or so, I think we can expect there to be a serious conversation about the correct configuration of those duties at those levels. As I said, David Lassner and I are committed to doing this. It's been a wide-ranging and long-winded talk. My apologies for that. What I've tried to do is to speak, again, not about wild dreams or aspirations, but what it is that we need to do and our responsibility to fulfill our duty. I guess I could end with Charlie Chan again, but maybe it's not entirely. I'll say it anyway. Waiting the end, we do our duty as it rises, and we tread the path that opens. Thanks a lot for all your confidence. Imua, alulike mai kako. Next month, we'll meet and have lots of questions and discussion.